Devastating truths. Where desperate peasants slept on their nightmarish journeys, it was a night that whispered secrets as the wind howled through the empty fields. Shadows danced against the moonlight, casting eerie shapes on the ground. They were the desperate ones, weary peasants who had walked too far and lost their way. Their faces, gaunt and hollow, told stories of despair deeper than any words could express. Each breath they took was labored, each step a battle against exhaustion that threatened to swallow them whole. Just ahead, a crumbling old barn made itself known, looming like a ghostly sentinel amidst the darkness. Rumors spun around this forsaken structure like a spider's web. Some claimed the barn housed the spirits of those who had perished while seeking refuge, their anguish still echoing within its walls. The peasants hesitated, exchanging glances filled with unspoken dread. They were torn between the stark choice before them: face the horrors lurking within or risk the freezing night that offered no mercy. A distant scream shattered the stillness, jagged with fear, and hearts raced as they instinctively tightened their groups. This wasn't their first encounter with terror, but each new fright had a way of branding itself on their souls. They pressed forward, moving toward the barn's warped door, which hung ajar like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. The wind picked up, carrying with it a musty scent of decay that wrapped around them like a shroud. As they stepped inside, the pitch blackness enveloped them. The air felt thick, almost tangible, as a low, mournful moan echoed from the depths. A figure shifted in the corner, cloaked in darkness, and the peasants froze, their hearts pounding like war drums in their chests. Fear tangled around their limbs, making it hard to breathe. The tension could have sliced the air with its sharpness. What were they stepping into? And were they embracing salvation or inviting doom? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The figure stepped closer, revealing a face etched with pain, eyes mirroring their own. Words spilled forth, fraught with urgency. "You shouldn't be here," it whispered, voice a shaky thread of warning. The peasant's muscles tightened, instincts screaming to run, yet they stood frozen, drawn into the chilling embrace of unanswered questions. What dark truth surrounded this place? What legends lay buried under the floorboards of the old barn? As the night deepened, the air crackling with ominous energy, they realized that crossing the threshold had ignited a fire, and not all that flickered in the darkness was evil. But what lay ahead? They would have to find out. The figure stepped fully into the weak moonlight. It was a woman, her hair matted and tangled, clinging to her forehead as if trying to conceal the torment etched into her features. The flickering shadows painted a portrait of suffering, and the peasants felt their own pain reflected in her hollow gaze. She raised a trembling hand, appearing both pleading and terrified. "You don't want to be caught here. They're watching." An icy shudder swept through the group. Who was watching? The barn, a tomb of secrets, seemed to pulse with an unseen force. Each corner held its own darkness, churning with the weight of dread, like the ghosts of hopes long extinguished. The woman stepped closer, her breath ragged, and mere inches away, they recoiled. Was she a phantom, conjured from the depths of despair? "We were hoping for shelter," one peasant finally managed, his voice barely a whisper as if he feared breaking the fragile stillness that enfolded them. Shelter, but at what cost? The last word echoed in their minds, mingling with the agonizing reality they faced. Hunger gnawed at their insides. It was riskier to stay outside, yet inside was a labyrinth of secrets steeped in despair. "They will come when the moon is high. If the door is shut, it's already too late," the woman said, urgency lacing her words. "We can fight, but only if we prepare." A flicker of determination ignited within the weary hearts of the peasants. They needed to act, to make a choice. The choice between fear and fight. A distant shuffle broke the suffocating tension, and they turned toward the barn's darkness, a new dread gripping them. "What do we do?" another voice urged, trembling slightly. The woman hesitated again, the weight of her own decisions etched deep into her brow. "We must find what they are afraid of. We must face it before it finds us." Tension crackled in the air as night deepened. A heavy silence settled, only broken by the woman's muted exhale. Each second felt like an eternity. Then, without warning, a loud crash echoed from the back of the barn, making everyone jump. "What was that?" another peasant screamed, panic rising. Through the doorway, the wind howled louder now, a wailing spirit clamoring for attention. Shadows flickered wildly, and the barn creaked as if alive. They could feel something stirring within, something waiting. The woman's eyes widened, glimmering with a haunting blend of terror and resolve. "We have to go deeper. We can't hide from this." The heaviness of her words carried a weight that stifled their hearts. But with no time for doubt, they moved as one, drawn towards whatever lay beyond the barn's footprint. They stepped further into the dark, determination battling against despair. As they advanced, a rustle echoed in the shadows ahead. They pressed on despite the mounting fear, when suddenly, a figure blocked their path. "What are you doing here?" it hissed, a sneer curling its lips. The eyes were wild, hungry for chaos. The peasants felt their resolve crumbling. Did they dare to face it? Or had they walked into a trap of their own making? With nowhere left to hide, they would have to confront whatever horror awaited them. What choice would they make in the face of darkness? The figure stepped back, revealing itself fully a man, scrappy and wild-eyed, with a tangle of dark hair that fell over his face like a shroud. The dim light caught his sharp features and jagged scars, each one a story of encounters past. His breath was quick, like a rabbit cornered by a wolf. "You're fools if you think you can escape them," he spat, the truth carving into their hearts like a knife. Regret washed over the peasants. Had they truly come to challenge darkness with little more than desire? "What do you know?" The woman shot back, anger igniting her voice. "Who are you? What's hunting us?" "I know more than you think," he replied, the edges of his sneer softening just a bit. "I've lived it. If you want to live through the night, listen carefully." His tone shifted from derision to urgency. "They lurk in shadows, but they can also take on forms. Friends, family don't trust anything. Not even each other." Fear and uncertainty rippled through them. Faces twisted in doubt. Could they trust this stranger? The woman felt her heart pounding like a drum. Desperation outweighed caution as she stepped toward him. "How do we fight them?" "Their SA scroll. It's the only way to understand what they want," he explained, panic crawling into his voice. "But it's deep inside past the barn. Guarded by their whispers. You'll hear the truths you don't want to hear." The wind howled again, pounding against the barn like a summoned specter. A voice from the back murmured, "But what if it's a trick? What if he wants to lead us to our doom?" The man's eyes glinted dangerously. "Not as deadly as standing idle, I promise you that. If you stay, they will find you." The tension snaked through the group, wrapping tighter around their throats. The peasant who had first spoken, his stomach a pit of anxiety, glanced at the others, searching their eyes. He felt the weight of their collective decision: fight, or flee deeper into the night. Sliding a hesitant look between them, he broke the silence. "If there's a chance to end this, to know what this is all about, shouldn't we try? Can we trust him?" "Try." The woman's voice cracked like thunder. "We have to take that chance." As they made their decision, a muffled sound churned from within the barn, like distressed voices clawing their way through the fabric of chaos. It sent a chill down their spines, raw and cutting. The peasant's hand twitched, instinctively reaching for the worn plowshare he carried, ready to defend, or to strike. "Now's not the time for hesitation," the woman urged, her voice piercing through the fear. "We need the scroll before they come." The man's expression hardened as he moved aside, revealing a narrow passageway hidden in the barn's warped wall. "This way. Stay close, and whatever you hear do not let it in. Steeling themselves, they shuffled forward into the unknown. Every step felt like a descent into madness, shadows clawing at their heels. The barn environment transformed into a maze of anxiety, every sound magnified their footfalls like thunder, the wind whispering tales of despair. As the group reached the hidden entrance, the atmosphere thickened. Gritty shadows slithered along the walls. Whispers, indistinguishable yet familiar, echoed around them. Words they feared the most twisted through the air. Panic surged through the peasants. What are those voices? Someone gasped. Those are the truths, the man said, fear rippling beneath his bravado. Pay attention. And then silence. A heartbeat later, a piercing scream broke the quiet, raw and chilling, like the wail of a lost soul. Run! The man shouted, his eyes wide with terror. The peasant's resolve buckled. What lay at the end of this passage? What truths awaited them in darkness? The choice was no longer theirs to make. Hurtling into shadows, their fates felt more intertwined than ever, but twisted and frayed like a rope bound to snap. What truths beckoned them, and would they dare to confront the horrors that lived within? The moment they fled into the passage, the darkness tightened around them, swallowing each cry, each breath. Each heartbeat became a drum of survival, echoing against the cold, damp walls. The air tasted of fear, metallic, sharp, and it clung to their throats like a vice. Keep moving. Don't look back. The man urged, his voice strained but steady as the darkness chased them with long fingers. They stumbled along the narrow corridor, feeling the walls pulse with something alive, something watching. Do you hear them? The woman whispered, sheer terror in her eyes. The whispers grew louder, weaving around their minds like mist. Familiar voices slithered through the gloom, accusations, pleas, and laughter echoing from memories best forgotten. It's just our minds playing tricks, right? Focus. The man snapped, gripping her arm tightly. Don't let them in. But the whispers twisted heartstrings, dredging up memories of lost loved ones, of battles fought with grief. A heavy silence fell, and the memory of laughter made the air thick, as if it could suffocate them. The peasant who had first spoken was no longer convinced of their chances. What if it's a trap? We could be walking right into their hands. His voice quivered, doubt festering like a wound. There's no turning back now. She shouted, desperation igniting her words. But as they rushed deeper, a flickering light drew them with the allure of hope, a faint glow ahead, beckoning them to draw near. They emerged into a chamber, vast and ominous, where shadows danced like phantoms on the walls. At the center rested a pedestal, and upon it lay the scroll, aged and cracked but still whispering secrets. The sight sent a shiver down their spines. Is it real? Another peasant breathed, stepping forward. The allure of knowledge was palpable, yet thick with hesitation. Guard it with your lives, the man warned, casting wary glances around the room, the tension crackling in the air like thunder. Once you open it, they will know. They will come for you. The woman's resolve hardened. Then let them come. We need to know what we're up against. With trembling fingers, she reached for the scroll. But the moment her hand brushed its surface, the chamber reacted, the shadows roiling and coiling tighter, twisting into grotesque forms that loomed menacingly. Disfigured faces emerged from the darkness, each marked by the anguish of the past, mouths stretching into grotesque smiles. No. She gasped, stumbling back. The thing that had formerly resembled a loved one whispered her name, calling her into the depths of despair. You're too weak to face us. Come home. Every shred of her being screamed against trusting it. The man stepped in front of her, his resolve unwavering. Fight it. Do not listen. The whispers, morphing into a cacophony, surged through the chamber like a storm. Hatred, sorrow, betraying their deepest fears and hopes, it all swept along the walls like floodwaters. We're running out of time. The peasant hollered, heart racing. What do we do? Open it. The woman shouted again, her voice a defiant shout against the chaos wrapping around them. We have to confront this. This is our only chance. As her fingers gripped the scroll tightly, the air crackled around them, the darkness bending to the will of the truth. And then, as she unfurled it, the words glimmering in the dim light, a shattering roar erupted from the shadows, piercing through their fear. Reality twisted. The mewling shadows converged, drawing them end at end. That moment, the weight of the scroll pulled them into a vortex of memories and shadows, where the lines between past and present were blurred. What lay hidden within those ancient words? Would they unravel the mystery or plunge them deeper into despair? The darkness threatened to swallow them whole, each second spanning into eternity. As the scream of their fears echoed louder than the pulsating beat of their hearts, they stood on the precipice of truth. Would they have the courage to face what lay beyond? The instant the scroll unfurled, the air crackled with energy, straining as if the whole world was holding its breath. The words, ancient and powerful, shimmered with a light of their own, casting eerie shadows that flickered and danced. "Look!" The man shouted, his voice breaking through the chaos, but his eyes were wide with both fear and wonder. "What does it say?" The woman leaned closer, her fingers trembling as they traced the shaky script. It felt alive beneath her touch, like a heartbeat of its own. It's a history," she murmured, piecing together the fragments. "A warning." But before she could read another word, the shadows surged forward, coiling around them like venomous serpents. Faces melted into the darkness, twisted in agony, forcing the woman to choke back a scream. They were memories, hewn from pain and regret. "Stay focused," the man cried, pulling her back. "Keep reading. We can't let them win." Every letter she read morphed into whispers, creeping into her mind, feeding on her doubts. The ancient text described a once great civilization, now reduced to ruins by darkness much like the one surrounding them. "It speaks of a ritual and invocation meant to control the shadows," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it comes with a price." "A price?" the peasant questioned, his voice thick with dread. "What kind of price?" The laugh of the shadows grew louder, mocking them. It was a cacophony of despair, resonating with the tales engraved in the scroll. "Sacrifice," she concluded, her heart pounding. "Those who grasp for power must pay a terrible price. A life for a life." "Then what are we doing here?" another shouted, panic lacing his words. "We can't sacrifice anyone. Not yet." The woman insisted, her mind racing. "We need to know what this means for us." There's more with each revelation. The air in the chamber shifted, becoming heavier, oppressive, like lead in their lungs. The shadows around them twisted in fury, some writhing as if in pain, while others seemed to howl, hungry for despair like an insatiable beast. "Listen!" she shouted against the rising chaos. "It says that if we can harness this power, we can turn it against the darkness." "How?" the man demanded, desperation clawing at him. "How do we do that?" The scroll trembled in her hands as if synchronizing with the shadows. "It requires," she hesitated, horror pooling in her stomach. "It requires a sacrifice." "No." the man shouted, horror rising in his throat. "We can't go down that road. But if we don't, they will consume us anyway." She argued furiously, locking her eyes with the shadows that pulsed with their own dreadful intent. "This is our only chance. We can't run forever. We need to fight back." The thrumming shadows converged, throbbing with malice, as if they were aware of their conversation, sensing the growing desperation. "Make up your mind," the peasant hissed, sweat dotting his brow. "Do we die here or take the leap?" The woman's finger moved across the scroll, reading with an intensity that made her heart race faster than before. "If we can find the right spirit, channel the power." She swallowed hard. "There's a chance we can reverse the grip of the darkness. But it means testing our own resolve like never before." The whispers erupted, closing in as if to swallow her whole, memory and regret swirling in a tempest. The voices screamed past her, echoing once more with those they had lost. "Do it! Do it! They chanted as the shadowy tendrils closed in tighter. Use the scroll. The man shouted, pushing the woman to take hold of it again. Decide. Time felt like sand slipping through their fingers. The decision loomed over them, an imminent storm. Spread the word. The woman yelled, strength pouring into her words. We will face what comes next. Together. But just as they made their vow, a roar erupted from the depths of the chamber. A shadow larger than the rest broke free, a figure twisted and grotesque, eyes burning like molten coals. Were they ready to face this horror, or had they unsealed their own doom? As the ground shook beneath them, and the air crackled with dread, they stood at the threshold of unimaginable terror. What horror lay waiting just beyond their grasp? The roar echoed in the chamber, a sound that rumbled like thunder in an oncoming storm. The grotesque figure emerged from the shadows, towering above them, its presence filling every nook and cranny of their minds with paralyzing dread. Its features twisted in a horrifying grin, sharp teeth glimmering in the sickly light, as if taunting their fear. Fools! It bellowed, voice like grinding gravel. You dare invoke what you cannot control. They staggered back, heartbeats rising in cold panic. The chamber felt alive, pulsating with dark energy. Trapped between the strange power of the scroll and this manifestation of the void, they stared wide-eyed, unsure of which fate loomed larger. Don't let it intimidate you. The woman shouted, her trembling form barely maintaining her ground. We have power. The creature interrupted, voice dripping with malice. You think your fragile hopes can wield power against me? The shadows are my servants. They linger where your light cannot reach. Stay together. The man urged, his voice wavering but firm. We can emerge from this darkness. The shadows writhed, snapping at their legs as though alive. Tendrils swept across the floor like hungry serpents, seeking weakness, echoing their deepest fears. The air crackled, tasting of ashes and decay, heavy with a suffocating weight. The woman's fingers tightened around the scroll nestled against her chest. The ritual, it might still work. She gasped, the thought igniting a flicker of resolve. We channel the right spirit and use its essence to turn this monster back. Sacrifice, the peasant murmured, horror flashing across his features. What spirit will we invoke? Who will pay the price? Their eyes met, searching for answers amongst the chaos. The shadows flickered, almost as if listening, anticipating the moment of weakness that would seal their fates. Sacrifice, could it be one of us? The man voiced, each word sharp, a knife edged with desperation. We could lose everything. I won't let that happen. The woman cried, fury mixing with fear. We will fight. Stand strong. But doubt gnawed at the edges of their minds. The shadows rippled, revealing glimpses of their lost loved ones, calling to them with whispers that tugged at their hearts. Join us, you cannot escape, they taunted, a chilling echo of regret. The creature roared again, sending tremors through the ground. Ask your scroll. What path will lead to your salvation? Or will you be another offering, consumed by the darkest hunger? Enough. The woman screamed. She thrust the scroll into the air, its pages shimmering defiantly. We will channel the power, but we must focus our intentions. There's got to be a way. The echoes around them shifted, and shadows crept closer, clutching at their resolve. Tell me of your sacrifice, the dark figure hissed, leaning forward, almost eager. What will be your offering? Cold sweat trickled down her spine. This was the moment. Everyone here held their breath, unsure if they were stepping into light or into oblivion. Could she find the courage? Maybe, she breathed, eyes wide. Maybe we can summon strength from another dimension. A spirit bent on justice could overpower this monstrosity. And in that instant, a sudden realization struck sharply. If they invoked the spirit of the past, they could lose more than they bargained for. Time is running short. The man shouted, pushing to the front and grabbing her arm tightly. What if we unleash something worse? The grotesque figure cackled, its laughter dark and suffocating. What will you choose? Your people? Or your souls? As the shadows surged, threatening to engulf everything about them, the woman felt the pull of her decision and with it, the oppressive weight of sacrifice. Who would take the leap? Would anyone survive the fallout of choices made in desperation? Choose now. The creature demanded, eyes alight with a haunting fire. The tension snapped like a taut wire, and clarity dawned for the woman. But would it be too late? What spirit would they dare to summon in their desperate fight against this darkness? With each passing moment, the pulse of despair quickened, matching the frantic beats of their hearts. The shadows danced menacingly around their feet, as though the darkness itself wished to claim them. The woman felt as if she was teetering on the edge of a precipice, where a single misstep would plunge them into depths unknown. Focus! She shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. We only need to channel our intent. Let it guide us. The man gripped her wrist tighter, his knuckles white in the eerie glow. But what if our intent is twisted? What if we draw the attention of something far worse? His voice trembled, the weight of unfathomable dread pressing down on him. A chill slithered down her spine, but she forced it away. We cannot let fear govern us, she declared, clutching the scroll like a lifeline. We must decide. Are we fighting for our lives or are we surrendering? The creature laughed, each sound like a jagged edge scraping against their resolve. Ah, the brave little souls think they can summon light. You'll only invite a storm. The grotesque figure leaned closer, its breath hot and rancid. Do you grasp the depths of what you are attempting? Suddenly, the shadows coalesced further, shrouding the chamber and tightening around them like a noose. It felt like choking smoke, drawing the air from their lungs. The things they had lost, faces they longed to see, whispered from the void, mocking them. You can join us, they cried, their voices rising like a chorus of despair. Enough! The woman shouted, breaking the spell of hesitation. I will not give in. I won't let the past decide our fate. Her gaze darted to the scroll, visions of ancient spirits tumbling through her mind. Justice, she breathed, the word emerging like a spark in the darkness. We call upon the spirit of the warrior. The one who fell fighting for the innocent. If his essence can join us, he can combat this evil. Do you think that spirit will help us? The peasant asked, doubt etched on his brow. What if it seeks vengeance instead of justice? She locked eyes with him, and a flicker of hope crossed her face. Then we guide him. We anchor him in our mission. Her heart raced as she felt a shifting in the air, a charge that electrified her senses. Focus your thoughts, your essence, she urged, raising the scroll and holding tightly to it. Feel the energy rise. Let it pull the spirit forth. With that, she began to chant the words, urgency threading through her voice. The scroll glowed, each syllable rippling through the chamber like waves against a rocky shore. Yet, tension shot through her as she felt the shadows waver. What if they pushed too far? What if they called something they couldn't control? The creature's snarl cut through the chant, rising in fury. Your arrogance will be your doom. You honestly think you can bargain with forces beyond your understanding? It lunged, shadows swirling around its jagged limbs, seeking to snuff out their light. Faster! The man yelled, adrenaline igniting within him. We have to hurry. The air thickened as the walls seemed to close in. The woman focused harder, her mind racing, vision blurring as the shadows screamed and writhed, desperate to consume them. Come forth! She shouted, pouring every ounce of strength into her voice. Then, a sudden crack of thunder echoed, a blinding light spilled forth, a beacon piercing the oppressive darkness. But as the energy surged, she felt a tugging at the edges of her consciousness. The whispers escalated to wailing cries, and she realized, they had awakened something far beyond their control. You've tempted fate. The grotesque figure roared, eyes flaring with malevolence. Prepare for consequences, for your offerings will not be enough. The light swelled and flickered, and amidst it all, the woman felt a great force rolling in a presence both exhilarating and terrifying. They had summoned something, but what could it do? As her heart raced with dread and anticipation, the chamber trembled, ready to expose them to unspeakable truths. What spirit had they truly awakened, and could it save them? From themselves? Could they survive the fallout of their audacity? The light exploded around them, a dazzling cacophony that drew gasps from both the woman and the man. Their surroundings blurred, the shadows shrieking in fury, their dark tendrils clawing at the illumination like desperate hands seeking the lost. The air shimmered with a low hum, vibrating through their bones, as though the very universe was straining to hear their call. "Stay anchored!" The woman shouted over the rising din, panic flaring behind her eyes. With every word she spoke, the scroll pulsed brighter, spilling warmth into their frigid surroundings. But the grotesque figure laughed, the sound echoing off the stone walls, its twisted face contorting in rage. "You think light can combat darkness? You are children playing with fire." It lunged toward them, shadows expanding and writhing, a storm of fury and desperation. "Grasp the energy!" The man yelled, his own voice shaking. "Feel it! Draw it to us!" The weight of dread pressed harder, but she didn't retreat. She gripped the scroll with newfound determination, channeling their collective will. "Warrior spirit, we summon you. Join our fight, bind your purpose to ours." As the final syllables slipped from her lips, the light surged, colliding with the shadows in a bone-rattling explosion. For a heartbeat, it felt like they stood at the center of a cosmic storm, the shadows and light clashing, a violent blur of chaos. Then, silence. A heavy stillness settled in, wrapping around them like a shroud. The glow dimmed to a flicker, casting weak shadows that stretched across the chamber. Tremors of uncertainty bubbled beneath the surface. What had they summoned? From within the dimmed light, a figure began to emerge, a silhouette wrapped in ghostly luminescence. Muscles taut and poised for battle, the warrior took shape, his features ethereal and fierce. His eyes burned with a flame that had not faltered even in death. "Who dares awaken me?" he thundered, a voice echoing like the clash of steel. "It's us. The woman and the man. We need your help." She stammered, overwhelmed by the raw power emanating from the spirit. The warrior's expression was a mix of confusion and rage. "You have called upon a wrathful soul. Justice is a blade I wield with certainty, but vengeance? That is a wild fire. We fight for justice. We seek to dispel this darkness." The man shouted, hope flaring in his chest. "Guide us, warrior. Help us turn the tide." The spirit scrutinized them, darkness swirling behind it like a tempest. "Your hearts bear the weight of the past, yet your fervor shines. But are you prepared for what may be unleashed? Do you grasp the weight of my justice?" As he spoke, the shadows screamed again, though now they sounded almost desperate. The grotesque figure recoiled, its form shifting and cracking, revealing glimpses of horrors long since buried. "Fools! You cannot wield what you do not understand." A rift split through the chamber, darkness spilling like ink, but the light surged once more. The warrior raised his spectral sword, shimmering with righteous fury. "Then let it be known. I stand with you. Together, we will bear the truth of this night." But in that moment, the shadows lunged. They twisted and surged, coiling around the man's legs, pulling him away from the circle of light. He struggled, horrified, his screams mingling with the echoes of the damned. "Hold tight!" she cried out, this new thread of fear racing through her. But the darkness was relentless. As the chamber shook, she felt the gravity of fate shifting. Was this the justice they had called forth, or had they merely opened the gates to their own ruin? The sounds of chaos rose around her, drowning out her thoughts. How could they possibly survive this pandemonium? And what devastating truth awaited at the heart of the darkness? The shadows tightened their grip around the man's legs, dragging him closer to the inky blackness that threatened to engulf him whole. She couldn't breathe. Panic clawed at her throat. No. Fight it. She screamed, her voice rising above the chaos. The warrior spirit sprang into action, his spectral sword gleaming fiercely. With a swift motion, he cut through the tendrils of darkness that threatened to swallow the man. The shadows writhed and hissed, as if stung, retreating just enough for him to break free. Stay with me. The man gasped, his face pale, eyes wide with terror. She stepped into the fray, determination hardening her resolve. We can't let go. Together, we can push the darkness back. The warrior nodded, a fierce light igniting in his eyes. Yes. Our strength grows as the shadows falter. The three of them, united by desperation, formed a triangle, channeling their energy into a singular beam of light. It pierced the gloom, splintering shadows that seemed to recoil in fear. But the grotesque figure howled, its laughter a knife slicing through their fragile hope. You think you stand a chance? I am the end, the decay. Your light will flicker and die. With a flick of its hand, new shadows surged forth, thick as smoke and as suffocating as despair. They wrapped around the warrior, choking the light from him. He staggered, visibly weakened, but gritted his teeth, fighting through the incomprehensible pain. Focus! He shouted, his voice strained. We must not waver. The woman could feel the warmth slipping from his light, panic surging again. No. You can't lose hope. The man's hands trembled beside her, instinctively reaching toward the warrior, their palms nearly touching. You said vengeance is a wild fire. We need to harness it. What if we twist the darkness into our weapon? The warrior's expression shifted, understanding sparking in his eyes. Vengeance and justice coexist. Embrace the darkness without fear, turn its own vile energy against it. As shadows writhed, she closed her eyes, grounding herself. The memories flooded back, pain, loss, a deep rage she had buried away, and she unleashed it. I embrace you. She shouted. Light and darkness collided within her, forming a nexus of power, a swirling tempest of energy ready to burst. The warrior raised his sword once more, channeling her anger, the essence of her hurt fueling the light. Together. He roared, swinging at the grotesque figure in a wide arc. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted, as if the sun had ignited within the chamber. The darkness shrieked, recoiling in terror from the brilliance they had conjured. For a brief moment, horror gave way to hope, the figure's form flickering as if the light was unraveling it at the seams. Do not relent. The warrior commanded. We are the harbingers of truth. We are not defined by fear. With one final push, their collective energy blasted forward, a wave of fury and light crashing into the figure, tearing at the edges of its existence. The chamber trembled, stone walls vibrating with the raw power unleashed. But the grotesque figure howled, and in that horrible sound lay the seed of revelation. As it began to dissolve into thin air, it mouthed words that sent chills through her. You do not know who I am or what I will become. The shadows swirled in chaos, the air thick with tension and uncertainty. Had they truly vanquished it? Or had they merely set the stage for something far worse? Staggering backward, the woman clutched the scroll, heart pounding. What did it mean? She whispered. The warrior's eyes dimmed slightly. It means the battle has just begun, something darker lies ahead, something we have yet to confront. Are you ready to face it? As the frozen darkness breathed again, she couldn't shake the feeling that an even more terrifying truth awaited them in the shadows. What horrors had they awakened, and what price would they pay for the justice they sought? The echoes of the battle lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of what had just transpired. The grotesque figure had vanished, leaving behind only a memory of terror and shadows that flickered restlessly against the barn's stone walls. Breathing raggedly, the peasants found themselves surrounding the warrior spirit, his luminous form now their beacon of hope in the thickening gloom. We did it, the man whispered, all mingling with disbelief. His eyes scanned the wreckage of shadows, searching for any sign of their foe. We fought back, but what did it truly cost? The warrior turned, his expression a tumultuous blend of pride and sorrow. You have proven your strength, but remember, darkness rarely disappears entirely. It only hides, waiting for the right moment to strike. He gestured toward the scroll, which pulsed softly in the woman's grip. You must understand the words within, they hold the key to your survival. With trembling hands, she unfurled the scroll again. Words glimmered with newfound clarity, detailing the balance of power and sacrifice. Behind her, the whispers of concern from the other peasants grew louder. What does it say? One asked, his voice strained. Tension hung thick in the air, weighing on their shoulders. It talks about the choice we face, a destined conflict, she replied, voice steadying as she read. We need to locate the living essence of those who have suffered and find a way to weave their strength into ours. We can call upon them to fight alongside us as we continue this battle. Another summon. The man ventured, fear sparking in his eyes. What if this time we lose ourselves? The warrior stepped forward, his presence commanding. The risks of sacrifice are present, yes. But strength lies not only in light but also in embracing our vulnerabilities. You've already tasted the power of loss, now, you must learn to channel it fearlessly. With those words, something flickered within her, a spark of understanding igniting amidst the anguish. We can be stronger together. A ripple of shared resolve pulsed through the group. They exchanged glances, hearts united by a common purpose. Let us do it, let us end this cycle of shadows, whatever it takes. The resolve settled in their eyes like iron-wrought chains, binding them together in their quest. Then the ritual must commence before dawn, the warrior instructed. We'll summon the essences of the lost who have intertwined with this darkness. They can guide us. His gaze swept over them, landing heavily on the woman. You must lead, your connection to the shadows proves vital. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. Let us prepare. They gathered in the barn's center, constructing a circle, hands clasped tight. A sense of urgency crackled in the air. Time was swiftly slipping away, the clock's relentless ticking echoing their resolve. As they steadied themselves, she began to chant the words from the scroll, an invocation that stirred within them the souls of those they had lost. The atmosphere thickened, energy swirling around them. The air shimmered and pulsed, shadows danced wildly as the remnants of those lost coalesced into shimmering forms. The barn transformed, the very walls reverberated with flickering lights, and the ground trembled. Answer the call, she urged, her voice lifting in the air, a passionate plea threading every fiber of resolve. Stand with us. And there, swirling in and out of focus, they appeared. It was family, friends, echoes of laughter and anguish intertwining in an ethereal dance. They surged forward, consolidating their energies into a singular, brilliant light that soared into the night. Just as the horizon began to lighten, the warrior spirit raised his sword. Now. Invoke their power. Together. With a final breath, she united her voice with the chorus of those lost, their energies combining, an amalgamation of pain, love, and fierce survival. A blast of light engulfed the barn, illuminating every shadow lurking in the corners. An ocean of clarity washed over her, the shimmering forms surged with purpose, driving back the encroaching darkness. Illuminating the way forward, and then, in that breathtaking moment, she felt its strength, both individual and collective, each pulse of energy reinvigorating her spirit and those by her side. It filled her chest with warmth, an ember uncovering lost hope. They flooded forward as one, casting the darkness deeper into the recesses, clinging to the radiance they had discovered. When the dawn broke, sunlight streamed through the barn's decrepit roof with joyous abandon. Shadows retreated fully, their whispers silenced, their presence thwarted. Together, they emerged, hearts united, battered but unbroken, standing with the warrior spirit now fading softly into the light. The woman felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude surge within her. We can't stop fighting, she declared. We've faced the darkness, but we must always be ready for its return. The warrior turned, a proud smile gracing his features. You have transcended your fears. Trust that light knows its way. Then, he dissolved into a cascade of glimmering light, taking with him the echoes of their battle. As the group stepped outside, the sunlight enveloped them, warming their weary bones. They were still peasants, still laden with hardships, but they had forged an unbreakable bond. A spark of hope ignited in the depths of despair, and amid the cacophony of awakening day, she whispered the promise into the wind. We will prepare. We will remember. We will stand together. With resolute hearts, they turned toward the horizon, ready to face whatever waited beyond their journey. The story of loss gave way to one of courage, their next chapter waiting to unfold. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Share your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. The journey is just beginning, and true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.